positive. I was asked today on a scale of 1 to 10 who will be the next president, and I said 10, it'll be Donald Trump. It'll be President Trump. There's no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind that he won this election hands down in a landslide, probably somewhere between 350 and 400 electoral college votes.
He was part of those 16 intelligence agencies that is able to see all the intel and the data, and that's why his story is the same thing I tell you. I can read what the globalists say at the CFR and read what Xi Jinping says.
No force can stop the Chinese people and the Chinese nation forging ahead.
The projections are that by 2050, that 70%, or the 60% is now with the G7, that 70% will be 35%. 35%. China and India together will be 50% of the global GDP. 50%. We're seeing a move in the next 40 years, the likes of which has not been seen for 200 years. And it's real. And it's real. And we're not preparing for it.
It turns out that China is going to overtake the United States in 2027. It was said that this might be delayed for a year or two. But this year, God has pulled off a little trick, right? God created COVID-19 and spread it to every country in the world. We still have 4,000 dead, right? But if 4,000 Chinese die versus 220,000 in the United States, we haven't really lost a single person, have we? In 2012, we achieved absolute superiority over the U.S. and Japan. We have gained absolute superiority over the U.S. military, and we are expanding our military at a rate unprecedented in human history. As long as we go to work every day, we will drive the U.S. to its death.
Globalists, man, they teach at the Army and Marine Corps training centers that America must merge with China for world peace.
We have to prepare for a more angry world.
Well, if you listen to Klaus Schwab and the Davos Group and Xi Jinping, the Great Reset is modeled after the Great Leap Forward.
The theme of this year's Summer Davos is shaping innovative societies in the fourth industrial revolution. What does an innovative society look like on your minds?
We are in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution. Technology will change everything. Business models, but it will also change society. And we have to be prepared for it. What is necessary is to make sure that the population absorbs all those changes and understands that those changes at the end are beneficial for our lives, for the quality of our lives.
From David Rockefeller's own words, he's the guy that opened up China in the 70s. They put Mao in the late 40s, and they just killed most of their people that were actually informed about what was going on to create the Communist Party you have today. It's Monday night. We've been working on this story for 2 weeks, and now the whistleblower has given us the authorization to go forward with the information you are about to see. This is the first report, and several we're going to be breaking with the documents if MSM challenges this in any way. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a major health executive over a 35 hospital network in Western Pennsylvania that is exposing the fact that COVID-19 is a completely overblown power grab scam. Now, we received this information directly from this whistleblower, checked out their credentials, and that was just the beginning of how insane this got. Listen to this information. This individual is involved in the management of 35 hospital network in Western Pennsylvania. The UPMC is the name of the company. During the latest so-called surge of COVID-19, where they claim the hospitals are all overwhelmed, we've got to have a lockdown again, they went from 96 beds to around 600. That is only 10% of the capacity they have just for COVID-19, and their hospitals are basically wide open. And here's the most important point. No deaths of the 600 people. Most patients stayed overnight for observation because they tested positive. Media will say hospitalization patients have surged over 600%. But it's the test that's been turned up 45 times, and German courts have ruled that it is a fake test 96% of the time. So this is a major industrial scam. You've seen the big reports about the famous female CEO that had a test that could find cancer in your blood, and it was incredible, and they made hundreds of billions of dollars, and it turned out it was all scam. That's what this PCR scam is, and the inventor of it came out and said just that.
If they could find this virus in you at all, and with PCR, if you do it well, you can find almost anything in anybody. It starts making you believe in the sort of Buddhist notion that everything is contained in everything else, right? I mean, because if you can amplify one single molecule up to something that you can really measure, which PCR can do, then there's just very few molecules that you don't have at least one single one of them in your body, okay? So that could be thought of as a misuse of it, just to claim that it's meaningful.
So it's not about deaths now, it's all about the cases, the cases, the cases. And remember what we first broke 8 months ago? Texas counties, where they were told if one person tests positive, claim 15 people around them have it, and that's also used. So this is the biggest hoax ever perpetrated in history, not just a medical hoax. And that's why they've got top scientists and virologists and epidemiologists going public saying it's the biggest hoax ever. Not there isn't a virus that if you're run down and don't have your vitamin D3 and your vitamin C and your zinc, sure, you're an old person in a nursing home, 85 years old, already had cancer, heart attacks, it can kill you just like the flu or a regular cold or pneumonia. But the response to it and the fear-mongering and the power grab is a hoax. And even Klaus Schwab, the globalist of the Davos group, says this is a great reset, that the virus really isn't a threat, and that it's the excuse to bring in this planetary rule and total control.
The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack. To use the COVID-19 crisis as a timely opportunity to reflect on the lessons the cybersecurity community can draw and improve our preparedness for a potential cyber pandemic.
We are now still fighting the virus, but we can be rather optimistic after what we have seen with the announcement of vaccines. Now we have to think how to structure, how to design the post-corona era. And here, of course, the word reset comes to my mind, because one thing is clear, we cannot come back to the old normal. We have to use this opportunity, as our parents and grandparents have done after the World War II, to really reflect on what went wrong and what could we do better.
Everything we're seeing this fall going into the winter is a repeat of what we saw in January, February, and March earlier this year. They tell you just 15 days to stay at home. The hospitals will be overwhelmed. Was it true? The hospitals were empty. Independent journalists went out and documented that. The media tried to deny it at first, but later had to admit it was true. And as InfoWars has pointed out in the last few years, big tech, Apple, Google, Facebook, Twitter, have been merging and investing in big pharma and the hospital systems. So now they're even banning consumer watchdog groups. They're banning medical doctors and epidemiologists, virologists, and scientists who come out and point all this out because they want to use this hysteria. It is Tuesday, December 1st, 2020. I'm your host, Alex Jones, and I have been preparing for this broadcast since 6 a.m. this morning, and the news is so massive, so over the top, so dangerous that I was unable to go on until 12 minutes into the transmission. That is because we have breaking information coming in that is being added to information we've been working on for weeks and months and years as the conflagration, the planetary alignment politically, spiritually, economically happens. Let me tell you what we have here. We've talked about things that Project Veritas is broken. We've talked about things that Breitbart's broken. We've talked about things Tucker Carlson is broken. I love when they do big things to say they've broken the biggest thing ever. This isn't about credit, but I have to tell you We are breaking information on this show today that is the biggest thing ever broken concerning this fraudulent election and what happened. Now, I have been on the phone with a lot of different White House lawyers. And I have been on the phone with what's left of the Patriots in the Pentagon. And I have been on the phone with a national talk show host. And everybody's trying to decide what to do at this point. But let me just drop it on you right now. Infowars.com live show feed headline. Must watch Tuesday live. That's got a typo, but that's okay. Top lawyers advise Trump to declare martial law, hold new election. And that headline just went out minutes ago. My typo. Typed that myself. Let's get that fixed, please. But there is so much going on. There is so much breaking. There is so much unfolding right now. And you just heard what I told you. Look at this headline. Attorney Lynn Wood, President Trump should declare martial law to hold new election. That sounds radical. That sounds extreme. We've been put under corporate globalist martial law. We're already under martial law. They've already put us under UN martial law. It's unconstitutional. It's criminal, but it's like being kidnapped. There's not a legitimate warrant. It's illegitimate that you're being taken by force with guns, but it's happening. So that's just one of the big stories, and I've got the inside baseball on what's behind that, and the fact that 3 months ago, Roger Stone said Trump must declare martial law when they try to steal the election and seize the servers and the proof, which is now finally starting to happen. It's not us that want the martial law. It's the left and the corporate media and the Chi-Coms that are ending this country as we know it and who have announced the lockdown is permanent and will never end. Now, that's the big Lynn Wood story, full-page ad, Washington Times. We're going to be reading the whole thing here on air today. In fact, bottom of the hour. But then there's this story. I hired a respected security firm that's done security research for the Army and other groups to dig in when I was asked by the White House to investigate it 3 weeks ago into Dominion and it being owned by the Chi-Coms. We got the proof. We checked it with the SEC, confirmed it 2 days ago, and we now publish the findings at Infowars.com. Firm that owns Dominion voting systems received $400 million from a Swiss bank account with connection to Chinese government before election. You heard me right. It's even stronger than that. We are 50 days out from the inauguration. Will it be the puppet Chi-Com operative Joe Biden? Or will it be the man who won an even bigger landslide, Donald John Trump? Now, Roger Stone said this 3 months ago. Lynn Wood, who's a very respected top lawyer, said it today in a full-page ad in the Washington Times. We'll be reading in full next segment. But when you have foreign powers and massive election fraud, the executive branch must declare a civil emergency, Lynn Wood calls it martial law, and have a new election. They put out a fraudulent election with 80 million ballots. They mailed out 700,000 extra ballots. Let me explain that again. 700,000 extra ballots came back in Georgia that did not exist, that were falsified, probably by the communist Chinese. This is so huge. But let me give you the big InfoWars exclusive of two big InfoWars exclusives that the system is fighting and battling as hard as it can to make sure it does not get out to anybody. Firm that owns Dominion voting systems received $400 million from Swiss bank with connection to Chinese government before election. Now, that's putting it lightly. It's actually two of them are Chinese government-run subsidiaries. An investigation into Securities and Exchange Commission filings revealed that the firm, which owns Dominion Voting Systems, which is a voting machine company, received $400 million from a Swiss bank account with close links to the Chinese government less than a month before the election. The investigation